So I just felt I wanted to bring you up to speed with Seahorse Consulting and Learning. Been very quiet online recently and been active in practical ways in other areas. So anyhow, had an interesting conversation with a man yesterday. And we were speaking generally about men and women in relationship, fathers, children, mothers, children, and all the different dynamics that can occur when parents break up, and the consequences of what happens with the family unit, what happens with the children, and the sense of grieving, the sense of loss for the parent without care who is being prevented from spending any time at all with their child or children. And I shared with this person a story about violence against a man, abuse against a man out in community. A man supposedly with more rights than a man in society who doesn't have any particular vulnerabilities. So it's been a long time in evolving my, first of all, anger and frustration about there not being any support services for people in a situation where they are a man and they have been abused, denigrated and discriminated against in community, and actually being isolated socially by design by a community as well. It's been a rough journey. It hasn't been an easy trail to navigate. But what it has done through my own personal pain and suffering of witnessing firsthand some events and then other things, sort of supporting the man through some very challenging times of being ostracized by community, and actually being targeted. It's been a very painful and harrowing experience to navigate. We have navigated through that space. But what it's left me with Seahorse, and coming back to equine assisted learning and social emotional skills building for men and women, and young adults. Yeah, girl. What it's given me is a bit more of an understanding of life from the perspective of a man in our society. I did catch a glimpse of this perspective, this experience, when I myself was homeless and I was the absent parent, and I was sharing accommodation in a halfway house that was only designed for men, because normally it's only the men who get pushed out of the home. So very, very interesting and deep and meaningful and harrowing and painful experiences in my personal life, for myself firsthand, and then as a third party. So with Seahorse, I'm quite strongly thinking that Seahorse is about supporting the most vulnerable people, the people who have been pushed out, the people who deserve compassion, time and understanding, an opportunity to discover themselves and to get out of that existence of being on autopilot or in a stance of defense. It's pretty draining to live like that, and I don't think that we can sustain that as a human being over a long period of time without it having some very deep-rooted changes to ourselves, the way we think about ourselves in the town that we live, how we think about ourselves, our place in society. I think it does etch something onto ourselves that will take quite a lot of time to be with and to understand, and to have the potential to look after oneself. So Seahorse, I think we're looking at not particularly domestic violence or abuse against men solely. I actually wonder, because women do get a fair whack of government funds in support of their lives, through divorce, separation, all of those sort of support services, counselling, and I think, I've heard of the men's behaviour change program. So in the courts a few months ago, waiting in reception, I'm putting in a PSIO application in against another woman, and I'm looking at the leaflets, the support leaflets that show these are the services that are available to you. And now I'm looking for myself for supports in court, and I'm looking for the man that I support in my life who has certain vulnerabilities and strengths. So I'm looking for both of us. What support is there? Well, there wasn't any support for myself in making the application. I had my regular psychology appointments through my mental health plan with the GP. But legally, Victoria Legal Aid, there was nothing. Disability liaison officer in relation to communicating clearly and understanding information from the police. Nothing to support either one of us. There was no support. There was nothing like Orange Door for me as a woman wishing to make an application against a PSIO against another woman. Legally, that there was no one in town would support me with that either. And for the man with disabilities, with his application for a personal safety intervention order, there was nothing for him either. Orange Door could not help him. They only help women. Even in GP clinics, you see men's behaviour change program. This is the point I'm coming round to. There are no women's behaviour change programs that I have seen in health services, in waiting rooms of GP clinics and specialist clinics. There aren't any women's behaviour change programs advertised in the waiting areas of magistrates' courts. I think that is an unhealthy perspective to have, that it's only men who cause harm, and it's only men who need they need to maybe look at their patterns of behaviour, and there's someone there, a specialist or a team of specialists there out there for you to help you change if you're a man, to improve relationships, etc., etc. Where are the women's behaviour change programs? Well, Seahorse Consulting and Learning, I think that's what we're stepping into. I think that is what we're stepping into, because I can't find any anywhere, and the statistics that are thrown around about women and children being impacted by abuse, and it's always this and it's always that, that does suit the services who support families or individuals in crisis situations. There is a need for a women's behaviour change program, and I think with great support from Habibi here, I think we're going to be creating it and rolling it out pretty soon. Not as a formal, there are this number of steps to this and this is how it is. It will still come from that equine assisted learning, equine assisted animals, psychotherapy institute lens, API. It's still going to come through from that lens. But what we're looking at specifically is for women to be accountable, to really have the opportunity to kindly look. We look at ourselves as women, as individuals, and we look at ourselves as groups of women in community, in society, and how we are. So that's what we'll be doing. We'll most likely be incorporating expressive mark making, some sound healing, some drumming, some Ayurvedic spa therapies like Shirodhara and Abhyanga, self-help therapies where we can help one another as sisters. We can help one another as aunties and grandmas and daughters and cousins. I think it's time there were women's behaviour change programs too, or certainly behaviour change programs that were designed for both men and women without distinction. Let's see where Habibi's going to take us next.